I'm Jack Davis. I'm calling together the meeting of March 22nd at 7:34 to order, being that we now have a quorum. To start this meeting, I made a couple of changes to the agenda. Did everybody see the new agenda that I sent out? Okay, so can I have a motion to accept the new agenda? I have Jenny, I have Charles as the second. All those in favor? We're there. Okay, good, we're done. So, all right, let's go to the first item on the agenda. And Bill, I'm going to put you on the spot right to begin with. I do not anticipate that I will be at the April 17th meeting. If I write the report, Bill, do you have any problems delivering it to the full RTM?
Well,
okay, you're good with that? You're muted.
What?
Okay, great.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm good.
Okay, super. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tom Moore, welcome aboard. Okay, so let's talk about the first item. It was kind of funny that I knew that there was a typo, but I was trying to get things out to Krista so we can get out. So we had the warning. And besides that, I attached the memorandum that Karen actually had pulled off to me from the rest of the Board of Selectmen package, which is much appreciated. This is basically a gift for $15,000 from the Darien Little League to Park and Rec so that they can hire a vendor and do some initial work to determine what needs to be done on the two baseball fields and a softball field that seems to have had some erosion and some grading issues. And then, providing it's in their budget, the Darien Little League will in fact pay for the repairs in that. It's a maintenance item. I was asking whether or not this was capital, but Pam feels pretty much this is maintenance. The Board of Finance approved the new appropriation. Just a reminder that for gifts for the town side, it is within the Board of Selectmen and the RTM's purview to accept gifts, not the Board of Finances. They don't accept donations. But what they do need to do is that if we're getting the check and the town's going to pay for that, the Board of Finance needs to approve an appropriation that allows that gift to be spent. So it's a little bit of semantics, but just so we understand. So I need somebody to move the acceptance of a gift and a $15,000 appropriation for Park and Rec for the study to be done on Little League baseball fields. Do I have somebody who's willing to do that, Bert? I need a second. I have Bill as the second. Is there any questions, discussions, or anything along those lines? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? I'm going to do how Seth does it. Are there any no's? Are there any abstentions? Seeing none, I'm assuming that everybody's in favor of it, so this passes unanimously. Bill, we're going to be secondary on this, so for the most part, Adele Conniff will do most of the reporting on it, and we just have to say, we looked at the finances, we're good with this. So okay. That'll be what's in the report.
Okay.
All right, let's move to the next thing. I made an adjustment so that we can start to talk about two things. One of the things I want to talk about is, and it's funny because it was raised, and just so everybody understands, the goal of these meetings with our counterparts in the RTM and the Board of Finance is to raise any budgetary issues on operations or capital, and to have the group of typically 5 to 6 folks come to a conclusion that the budget's good, and therefore be at the Board of Finance and say, we're good with this. And if you're not, say, well, you're not good with it, because we want everything up front, and then also come back and report to to our committee where we are. When we're doing the budget, I would expect we're going to do high-level financials, and that each of the individual committees that we're doing this with will discuss their own operating and capital budgets. So unless there's something major, we're not going to talk about it in our budget presentation, which is what we're trying to do more and more. So what I was thinking of doing today is just going around and seeing who at least has been contacted by their Board of Finance reps, and who might be in a position that, have you contacted your counterpart in the RTM? And if you're passing questions around, I'm going to ask what the committee thinks. Does everybody want to see what all these smaller committees are asking, or not? So I'll look for comments on that. Go ahead, Jenny. Unmute.
I can certainly. The short answer is yes. I've been in contact with both Board of Finance and RTM reps for the different areas of the budget that I'm covering, and we've had exchanges. I can, if it's helpful, I can compile a report of the questions that I asked, and just a summary of what the feedback is right now. I mean, they're still collecting. A lot of them are still collecting questions for discussion, but I think I can share what I've asked on debt service and what I've asked on community grants and whatnot. But maybe it's easier for me to just supply a recap.
The question is, does everybody want to read everybody else's documents? I mean, if it's just passing around paper to everyone and people really don't have the time to look at everybody else's because it takes time to do your own, then, I don't think we need to share it if that's the consensus of the committee.
I will only share it if there's an issue that's raised.
So Jack,
go ahead.
The lawyer's answer is always, it depends. Would I want to read everything? No. Would I want to read what Jenny has to report on bond issuance? Yeah. Okay. That's a big thing. Okay. So I think we should find a way to make it available to anybody who is interested. And the best way to do it is, like, I know Jenny is on bonds, and she copied me already. Thank you very much, even though I hadn't even asked for it. But she thought it was a nice thing to do, and it was. And so I will look at it. Okay. And the same was when I and Bill have a meeting with John Walcott and Taylor Carter this Saturday on general government. You guys just let me know who's interested in what was discussed.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll do it that way. I know Jenny passed something on to Public Works, asking about a follow-up on Edgerton, which is a number of years out. For Bill and Charles, I have a call into Mark at a letter. I will have a call into Mark at a letter to make sure that he's aware. I strongly suggest that I've very high regard for Mark's knowledge, And I think that Public Works is a very strong team. But I actually think that if you guys can meet with Mark's committee, then that would be very good in moving it forward. I got from Jen today, and I'll send out later, what the timetable is for every one of the discussions on the at the Board of Finance, so that everybody will have dates. Yeah, some things are coming later this year, but with all due respect, I think it's worthwhile to give a pass to Jim Palin, simply because he's been doing traveling, and he spent a tremendous amount of time on Great Island, and so other people have helped him by picking up some of the slack. So we're late, but it's not devastating. All right, that we're late. So this is one of those past things. I also, while we're talking just briefly about Great Island, I think that if you weren't listening to the Board of Finance meeting yesterday that took place, it's now on Vimeo, and go to about 1 hour, 2 minutes in, and there's a very good discussion led by Dan Bumgardner on the 103 million and the incremental 18 million that's there. So I do think that it's worth a listen. Dan and some of the others were very articulate in what they thought it should be. So it's worthwhile. That's going to be further discussed at future Board of Finance meetings, but it's a worthwhile discussion. It's maybe 20 minutes in total, but it starts at about 1 hour, 5 minutes in. So when they're talking about the bondings, and he's talking about that the current bonding also includes 6.5 million for roads remediation and other things that while the bond issue says that it's responsible for the purchase and other improvements, that was not the intent of how people voted on this, and there was very little discussion. And we've spent more time talking about $40,000 items than we did about what the 6.5 million entails. And so that's an important concept that I'm just mentioning. Go ahead, Jenny.
Jack, I think there's somebody in the waiting room.
Yeah, I don't see them. They haven't signed on. I don't make people come to the waiting room.
Fine.
So I don't know who it is. So we're not being bombed, so I don't care. All right. So next, Beth, I'm calling on you. On the education budgets, have you been contacted by?
I have not been, not by anyone on the Board of Finance. I don't know at this point that there's really much left to be said, because so much was said in the process of the budget moving from being the superintendent's budget to the Board of Education's budget, and so much was cut that I'm not sure there's much more to examine at this point, frankly. Because as I'm sure you're all aware, they cut approximately $1.2 million from the budget. And so their budget, which came in well over 4%, is now at 3.56% increase. So I'm not sure there's much to discuss, at least in my opinion.
That's fair enough. And I'm not, I don't know that isn't the expectation of other people who've been surrounding it. But I'm not sure, since everybody in the world on the Board of Finance was assigned the Board of Ed budget, who exactly you should be talking to. So, but we'll see and get that resolved. Next on the agenda chart, Charles, you want to talk a little bit about where you are in Public Works and what you're looking to do on that?
Well, there's been some email traffic around between myself and Bill Dunn and Bill Martin from Board of Finance. I mean, I had a bit of an issue getting a full package of information, so I need to spend some time with Kate and or Ed, etc. So I get the details behind the current submissions. But at the end of the day, it seems like there haven't been a lot of changes between what was proposed by the administrator, what the Board of Selectmen liked, and then what they passed on to Board of Finance. So I'm hoping it'll be reasonably straightforward, but we'll dig into it in the next few days.
Yeah, I think that the only major change is that they pulled the street sweep or whatever they want to call that, and delayed that for a year and said that they could make the one that's here last a little longer. But I think that was basically. I'll also mention, only because I just found it out because somebody else was talking about it, but while we do have some extra money from the lack of snow this year, which hopefully doesn't mean we get major snowstorms in April, some of that money will be allocated to the cost of hauling, which is over budget for the second year in a row. So I believe there's going to be ultimately an allocation. It's not all free money, which we do anyhow on a monthly basis in that. All right, Bert, what do you got?
Nothing right now. We're going to have a meeting. Bill and I will have a meeting on Saturday and see what's going on in the general government. Most of the
Yeah.
amounts are small, but you already know that I have concerns about the interest income from investments being too low. And that was my argument was reinforced today when the Federal Reserve raised interest rates again by 0.25%. So that's something we need to look at because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I will say that we just made the investments in T-notes and bills is now up to 25 million. So that's been further invested based upon my conversation with Joan.
Okay, great. A
Um,
wonderful thing. But how will that translate to next year? We need to know if you lock up treasury bills for 1 year and treasury notes for 2 years, what's the impact on expected earnings? And the other issue, of course, is when they do invest in T-bills, which are discounted, they only recognize the income from the T-bills. When the T-bill matures, they don't accrue any of it. So that
right.
kind of it makes it even more difficult for Joan or anybody else. She's trying her best, but it's hard because under the current accounting rules, she doesn't accrue any of it. It's just kind of big lump sum matures and we have the interest income. So in other words, if you bought a T-bill that matures in July of 1 year and it will do nothing for you this year, it's a different instrument than if it matured in June of this year.
Absolutely. But for the town balance sheet, those amounts will have some accrual to it. We're just not going to see it in the interest income, but then those would be recorded as a starting point for interest income in the following fiscal year. So yes, point well taken.
Thank you.
Let's see. Werner, are you there or away for a bit? If not, then I'll go to Malin. Malin, what areas are you covering and what conversations have you had? Oh,
Werner, do you
Werner,
want to
you're
go
here.
before me?
Okay. Melinda's going to talk, then I'm going to go to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so the police, we're having a meeting on Friday with Chief Anderson. So that will be a good time to ask questions. And that's being arranged by Rob
Rob?
Cardone. Yeah.
Yep.
So so I'll go to that. For the fire departments, fire commission, fire marshal, I don't get the sense that Dan and John and David from the Board of Finance want to actually get together, but I'll reach out to Mac at least, and because I have a perfect overlap with his committee, and we're just trying to get questions together to make sure that we know what needs to be reviewed in the fire. So that's the approach for that section. Let's see. And then the last one is human services. And we're trying to get a meeting together with Taylor and John.
Okay. For your meeting on Friday, Matt can't make it, but Lois Schneider will be there to do public health and safety. I heard from Lois today.
Okay, great.
All right. Werner, where do you stand on your areas of coverage?
Yeah, so I was supposed to look at planning, zoning, and housing, and I was still waiting for you to help me figure out where I find this online. I spent half an hour to look for it. I couldn't find it.
Okay, I will. I'll do two things. First of all, somebody else is on planning, zoning, and housing, and I don't have my list in front of me.
Iris.
Iris.
Iris. Okay,
Yes,
fine.
yes,
That's right. That's right.
We do this together.
All right. I'm going to send you the meeting that they had with Jeremy on that Thursday that I referred to, where they actually go in detail on his budget. Actually, planning, zoning, and housing has already approved the two budgets and the capital budget as well. I think that you'll find a lot from there. I think there was one or two follow-up questions, and on that, if there's any questions on that, it doesn't have a large increase, but if you do have any questions or even on the follow-up, send it to Amy and we'll work through that way.
All right.
Because Amy will get you answers.
So they didn't. So I thought they were having it on April 16 as well, or 17 or whatever that was. No, it was before that. Sorry, before
no, it has to be before, because on the 6th, the Board of Finance will be voting on setting the mill rate.
Okay.
So, and just so everybody seems to understand, guidance, and there's some discussion on guidance that is going to take place over at the Board of Finance area. But guidance was on expenses. They have enough tools in their toolkit at the Board of Finance, based upon the growth in the grand list, that'll probably give us about $2 million. My position is, yes, the grand list is giving us $2 million incremental income based upon the current year's mill rate. Just because we have it doesn't mean we should spend it, but that's my opinion on that. There will be some capital allocation potentially coming out of the general fund, and there's other items that they can bond various things that are going on, and all that will ultimately affect what the final mill rate is. So even though expenses might be at 4 and 5%, which I do not believe is sustainable, it doesn't mean that the corresponding increase in the mill rate will be of an equivalent amount. So just, we can talk about that as we get closer to this thing. Okay. Louisa, have you been in contact with any of the people on the committee or anything like that?
Yes, we're going to get together tomorrow at 8 p.m. with Jim Palin and Taylor and Kiera to discuss the library budget. I
Right.
attended the presentation when Kira did to the Board of Selectmen. I think that she's very good and pretty strong. Again, the increases are something that we know happening. It's in the health and dental with more than 65,000 or 13% increase. So yes, I think that we're going to discuss. Not sure how much we can do, but tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Okay, that's good. I will say I will be surprised because, I've been to many of the library meetings. I also agree with you that I have a lot of confidence in Kara. I think she's
Yes,
an excellent choice. And thank you, Malin, for helping that move along, since Malin was on the board at that time. But the other thing is that this is the first time that I've seen the library come in above guidance. So without an extraordinary item that happened a number of years ago where somebody was being paid out for vacation days and other things like that. So I'd be interested in what the final discussion is. However, I'm not showing up at 8 p.m. to be part of it.
yes. And thank you for
So
sending the presentation and the Excel, the PDF budget. So everything is
yeah,
here.
they've done. You have a good number of people there. I think Iris is also should be part of that, if I'm not mistaken, on the
Yes,
library.
she
But
hasn't
again,
responded but I will reach out.
okay, because we have enough good people around that I'm going to try and make as little of these as possible on these meetings, and go from there. Is there
Mhm.
anybody who I haven't asked about? I know there's some people that are missing from today's meeting, um, but and any other comments or other things like that along those lines? Any questions?
Hey, Jack, if someone wants to help with human services, I would love the help because the fire and police are a little on the large side, and I've never done this before. So, if
I
someone wants to help me,
I have done before human services,
is
and
it easy?
it is mostly what we see is basically wages, and there's a lot of contribution donations that human
Okay.
services receive. So I will be happy to help with if you want me to.
Okay, thank you, Louisa.
You're okay, Jack, with that?
Yeah, I don't need
Okay,
to get involved in those type of helps. I
perfect.
appreciate that you're willing to volunteer to do that.
Yes.
Um,
Again, there's not too much there except salaries, and I think that again is they
Okay,
try
I haven't
as
looked.
much to reach out to people, and they are very tiny
and I
Yeah,
think
separations.
I think you might agree with me, Louisa, but the woman who runs human services is pretty good as
Allie.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
Allie. I know. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and she
So
does Medicaid. She supports people with Medicaid applications. She supports with electricity assistance. She provides food vouchers to everybody. So really, she goes beyond.
yeah, quite honestly, you have the person with the right heart to be running that department.
Hmm.
So that's good. All
Yes,
right.
so
If
I will reach out and to Taylor and join their meeting.
okay,
Well,
super.
they've reached out, so I'll let you know. They
Okay.
haven't circled back. I told them when I was available, so I will let you know. It's just it would be nice just to I haven't looked at those budgets yet. So
Okay.
if it's pretty if it's pretty obvious, that's fine. But thank
Yeah.
you. I'll let you know.
You're welcome. Happy to do
Yeah,
it.
I still think a team of two is
Yeah.
always good. So, are there any other questions? All right. So before I forget to do it, Jenny, your turn.
I had a typo in the last minutes. I misspelled Malin's last name. I'm sorry, but I would like to correct it. So hope everyone got a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting. I sent it a few days ago. And the one change is correcting Malin's last name, unless anyone else has other comments and questions.
I'll make a motion to
Make a motion to
properly
amend.
record that, and I see Barry is seconding the motion.
Okay.
So you need a motion
To
to approve
amend the
the
minutes.
minutes no, we just did the amendment, so we need a
Amendment.
motion to approve the minutes as amended. I see Werner is moving that. Malin is seconding that because she wants her name right.
Yes. And sorry, was that Werner? Was the second on the first?
Malin's the second. Werner was
No,
the
on the one
primary.
before it. With the
was the
motion to
first.
amend. Okay.
Yeah, and Barry. I moved,
And
Barry
Barry.
seconded.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Okay, good enough. We're there, unanimous. Unless there's anything else that anybody wants to meet where we can get done in approximately 30 minutes for an F&B meeting during the budget time. Yeah, really, Barry, I'm agreeing with you. And we have a motion to Can we have a motion to adjourn? I'm going to take that Barry's moving that based upon his comments and that. Louisa's second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, thank you.
Aye.
Tom, thank you for joining us tonight, and welcome back anytime. So with that, I am ending the recording of this meeting at 8:06.